My mom, she's hurt. They hurt her and she won't wake up." 6-year-old Leah Warren burst through the glass doors of Warrant Tech's lobby, her white dress torn and streaked with dirt. Behind her, the nanny stumbled in, phone pressed to her ear, panic in her eyes. Every employee froze. The security guard leapt from his post. But Leah didn't stop for any of them. She ran straight to the janitor, mopping the marble floor. Her small hands clutched his gray uniform. "Mr. Daniel, please," she cried. "She needs help now." The man looked down. His weathered face was unreadable until something in his eyes changed. Cold, sharp, purposeful. He set down his mop. "Show me where." Daniel Carter had been invisible for 3 years. Every morning at 5, he entered through the service door, clocked in, and vanished into the unseen corridors of the corporate world. He cleaned bathrooms, emptied trash cans, and scrubbed coffee stains while people chatted around him like he was part of the furniture. At 39, Daniel looked older than his years. Gray hair at the temples, lines at the corners of his eyes, and scarred hands that moved with quiet precision. He never made eye contact, never joined in conversations, never stayed long enough for anyone to remember. Him. Management liked that about him. Reliable, silent, invisible. Perfect. Lived 6 blocks away in a basement apartment, with cracked walls and a leaking ceiling. The heating barely worked, but he didn't care. His life fit inside a single room. 1 narrow bed, a table, 2 chairs, a hot plate. On his dresser sat a framed photo turned face down. He hadn't looked at it in 2 years. In the evenings, Daniel volunteered at a community clinic across town. He taught basic first aid, how to clean wounds, recognize shock, perform CPR, to anyone willing to listen. Street kids, old men, forgotten souls. He never told them he used to be a doctor. He never told anyone. Cecilia Warren was everything Daniel wasn't: visible, powerful, unstoppable. At 34, she had taken over Warrant Tech after her father's sudden death and turned it from a sinking company into a corporate powerhouse. 16-hour workdays, meetings across 3 cities in 1 week, million-dollar contracts negotiated between red-eye flights. Her daughter often sat coloring at the corner of her office, waiting for a few quiet minutes with her mother. Being a single mother and a CEO left her little time to rest. 4 hours of sleep was a good night. But Cecilia didn't complain. She'd chosen this life the day she divorced Leah's father, a man who wanted a decoration, not a partner. Now, she answered to no one but her daughter and her board of shareholders. Lately, though, something had been wrong. The financials didn't make sense. Numbers weren't aligning. Money was vanishing into accounts that shouldn't exist. When Cecilia confronted her CFO, Richard Brennan, he smiled that easy smile and told her everything was fine. She didn't believe him. Leah was supposed to be at ballet every Thursday evening. But more often, she slipped away from her nanny and rode the elevator down to the basement. That's where she found her favorite person in the building. "Mr. Daniel!" she'd call out, her voice echoing down the dim corridors. Daniel would look up from his mop, shake his head, but there was always a faint smile tugging at his lips. Leah would perch on an overturned bucket, chattering about her day, school, friends, books. She told him things she never told her mother, how the big office felt lonely, how she missed her dad even though he never called, how she sometimes got scared when her mom stayed late. Daniel just listened. No judgment, no advice unless she asked. Sometimes he taught her little lessons: how to tie a knot, how to tell if fruit was ripe, how to whistle through her fingers. Some employees whispered that it was strange. The CEO's daughter talking to the janitor. Cecilia noticed, but never stopped it. There was something steady and kind in Daniel's quietness that made her trust him, even though she knew almost nothing about his past. The attack happened on a Thursday night. Cecilia stayed late, surrounded by spreadsheets and receipts, uncovering the truth. The money trail revealed millions siphoned off through shell companies and ghost vendors. Richard Brennan's signature appeared on half of them. She scheduled an emergency board meeting for the next morning. She was ready to expose him all. At 10:30, she packed her briefcase, sent a quick text to her nanny downstairs, "Coming down now." 5 minutes. In the lobby playroom, Mrs. Chen, Leah's nanny, checked the time while the girl played nearby. Cecilia's heels echoed through the parking garage as she stepped out of the elevator. Shadows gathered between the concrete pillars. She was nearly to her car when two men in ski masks appeared from behind a van. She turned, startled, but too late. One grabbed her arm, wrenching her backward. The briefcase fell, papers scattering like snow. "Where are the files?" one demanded, voice low and familiar. "I don't know what—" The punch came fast, sharp. She gasped, doubling over. The second man shoved her against a pillar, pain flashing white behind her eyes. "The backups!" the first hissed. "Where are they?" Her vision blurred. One raised his hand again, but the other froze. "Someone's coming." "Then go!" They ran. Cecilia collapsed onto the concrete. Somewhere above, a car door slammed, an engine roared, and then silence. She tried to move, to call for help, but her body wouldn't respond. Darkness pressed in. Stay awake for Laya, she thought. Upstairs, Mrs. Chen frowned. It had been 15 minutes. She tried calling, no answer. "Laya, sweetie, stay close. I'm going to check on your mom." They took the elevator down. The doors opened to the dim garage. "Miss Warren?" she called out. A faint moan answered. "Stay behind me," she whispered. Then Laya saw her. "Mom!" She tried to run, but Mrs. Chen caught her arm. Cecilia lay crumpled on the cold floor, her face bruised, one arm bent unnaturally, papers scattered everywhere. Mrs. Chen's hands trembled as she pulled out her phone. "I'm calling an ambulance." "Don't touch her, Laya. We need Mr. Daniel." "Laya, wait!" But the girl was already gone, sprinting toward the elevator. Mrs. Chen pressed trembling fingers to Cecilia's neck. A pulse, faint but there. "Hold on," she whispered. "Help is coming." Moments later, Laya burst back into the lobby, breath hitching. Her eyes darted wildly, then she saw him, Mr. Daniel, near the main doors, emptying a trash bin. She ran straight to him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Mr. Daniel," she sobbed. "My mom. She's down there and she's really hurt and she won't wake up." Daniel dropped to one knee, hands steady on her shoulders. "Slow down." "Where is she?" "The garage. Sublevel 2. Mrs. Chen is with her, but—" Laya's voice broke. "Please, you have to help her." The security guard ran up. "I've called 911. Ambulance will be here in 6 minutes." 6 minutes might be too long, Daniel said quietly. His tone had changed, calm, commanding. His eyes hardened with focus. "Take me to her, now!" Laya grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the elevator. In those 30 seconds, Daniel's mind shifted into a mode he thought he'd buried forever. Combat medicine, trauma response, precision under fire. He calculated injuries, oxygen loss, and the golden minutes that separated life from death. The elevator doors opened. Daniel scanned the scene instantly. Mrs. Chen kneeling beside Cecilia, no attackers in sight. "Papers everywhere. No time to waste." He rushed forward. "Thank God," Mrs. Chen breathed. "I don't know what to do." Daniel was already on his knees, his hands moving with calm, surgical precision. Unconscious but breathing, shallow, stable airway, facial trauma. Left arm fractured? He checked her neck. Stable. Scalp laceration, bleeding but manageable. Abdomen rigid. Possible internal bleeding. "Call 911 back," he ordered Mrs. Chen. "Tell them we have a trauma patient. Unconscious, head injury, probable internal bleeding, suspected fractures to ribs and arm. Tell them to have the trauma team ready." Mrs. Chen just stared. "You're a janitor." "Make the call," he said sharply. Startled, she fumbled for her phone. Daniel slipped off his gray jacket, revealing something no one expected. A weathered canvas bag strapped across his chest. He unzipped it with practiced ease. Inside was a compact trauma kit that didn't belong in a janitor's hands. Sterile gauze, hemostatic agents, surgical tape, a collapsible cervical collar, military-grade supplies. Laya stood frozen a few feet away, eyes wide with fear. Daniel looked at her. "Laya, I need you to be brave for your mom." "Can you do that?" She nodded, trembling. "Good girl. Stay right there and talk to her. Let her know you're here." Laya knelt beside her mother. "Mom, it's me. Mr. Daniel is here. He's going to help you." Daniel worked fast. He packed the head wound with hemostatic gauze, applied the collar, checked her pupils, one slightly dilated, concerning but manageable. Pulse 110, weak but present. She's compensating for blood loss, he thought. Her abdomen was bruising quickly. Internal bleeding, likely. He couldn't stop it here, but he could keep her alive. He splinted her arm, rolled her gently into recovery position, covered her with his jacket to fight shock. Every move was deliberate, every motion muscle memory. His hands hadn't forgotten. 4 minutes had passed since Laya had found him. In the distance, sirens wailed. 2 minutes later, paramedics arrived. The lead responder, a woman in her 40s, took one look at the scene and froze. "Who did the first response?" "I did," Daniel said, stepping back. The paramedic crouched beside Cecilia, scanning his work. Her skeptical expression shifted to one of respect. Cervical collar correct, head wound packed perfectly, arm splinted, recovery position ideal. "You kept her alive!" She looked up sharply. "Military?" Daniel didn't answer. As Cecilia was lifted onto the stretcher, the paramedic turned again. "Seriously, who are you?" "That was textbook battlefield medicine." "Just someone who knew what to do," Daniel replied quietly. A police officer approached. "I need statements. Starting with you." "Name?" "Daniel Carter." "I'm the janitor here." The officer paused, eyeing the trauma gear. "A janitor carrying military medical supplies?" "I've had first aid training," Daniel replied evenly. "The child found me. I stabilized the victim until paramedics arrived." He watched the ambulance disappear into the night, then turned toward the elevator. The officer called after him, but Daniel kept walking. He'd given his name. They'd find him if they needed to. For now, he had to disappear. Before anyone asked questions he couldn't answer. Cecilia awoke hours later to the steady beep of monitors. Her head throbbed, her arm was in a cast, and every breath stabbed with pain. "Mom!" A small voice filled with relief. She turned her head and saw Laya holding her hand. Mrs. Chen stood behind her, eyes red. "Baby," Cecilia whispered, her throat raw. Memories returned in flashes, the parking garage, the masks, the attack. What happened?" "Mr. Daniel saved you," Laya said earnestly. "He came down and had all these medical things, and he knew exactly what to do. The ambulance people said you would have died if he hadn't helped you." Mrs. Chen nodded. "It's true, Miss Warren. That janitor, Daniel Carter, treated you like a combat medic. The paramedic said his work was flawless." A nurse entered, checking the monitors. "You're awake. Good. You have a concussion, 3 broken ribs, a fractured arm, and internal bruising. You're lucky to be alive." After she left, a man in a gray suit stepped in. Tired eyes, serious tone. "Miss Warren, I'm Detective Morris. I need to ask a few questions. Do you remember your attackers?" "2 men. Ski masks," Cecilia said slowly. "But one of them, his voice. I think it was Marcus Holloway. He works in finance. Richard Brennan's assistant." Morris scribbled quickly. "You're sure?" "Almost. They wanted files. Backup files. I've been investigating embezzlement. Richard Brennan, our CFO. I found proof he's been stealing millions. I was planning to reveal it at a board meeting this morning." "This morning is Friday," Morris said. "You've been unconscious for 8 hours. We need those files." "They're scattered in the garage, but I have backups," she said, trying to sit up, wincing in pain. "What about the attackers?" "Not yet identified. But security footage shows 2 men fleeing at 10:38 p.m. He flipped a page. "Now, about Daniel Carter, the janitor who saved you. We tried to get his statement, but he left. Do you know anything about him?" Cecilia shook her head. "Almost nothing. He's worked at Warrant Tech about 3 years. Quiet. Keeps to himself. My daughter likes him. Your daughter says he's her friend, that he teaches her things." Morris closed his notebook. "Janitors don't usually carry military trauma kits or perform battlefield procedures. We ran his prints." Cecilia's pulse quickened. "Captain Daniel Carter," Morris continued. "U.S. Army Medical Corps. 3 tours in combat zones. Highly decorated trauma surgeon. 27 confirmed saves under fire. Honorable discharge 8 years ago. Since then, nothing. Until he appeared here, working as a janitor." The words hung in the air. The quiet man who mopped her floors had once been a battlefield surgeon. "Why?" Cecilia whispered. "That's what I'd like to know," Morris said. "Also why he still carries field equipment and why he left before completing his statement." "He said he'd come to the station this morning." Mrs. Chen spoke softly. "He just wanted to make sure Laya was safe first." After the detective left, Cecilia lay back, thoughts racing. Daniel Carter, surgeon, soldier, janitor, where is he now? She asked. I don't know, Mrs. Chen said. He left after the ambulance took you. Cecilia turned to her daughter. Laya, did Mr. Daniel ever tell you he was a doctor? Laya shook her head. No, he just said he likes to help people. He teaches kids downtown first aid. He mostly listens. He's a good listener. Laya squeezed her mother's hand. Mom, is he in trouble? No, baby, Cecilia murmured. He's not in trouble. He saved my life. Illy, a nurse, worked beside him every day until a supply convoy she volunteered for hit an IED. 12 died instantly, Emily among them. Daniel worked 18 hours straight to save the survivors but couldn't save her. After that, something inside him broke. He finished his tour, vanished from medicine, and 3 years ago resurfaced as a janitor. Cecilia read the report through tears. He's been mopping floors because he can't forgive himself for surviving, she whispered. She found him teaching first aid to homeless teens in a rundown community center, his hands steady, his voice gentle. When she walked in, bruised but healing, he froze. You should still be in the hospital, he said quietly. You saved my life, she replied. Why didn't you tell anyone who you were? Because it doesn't matter who I was. I'm not that person anymore. My daughter says you're her favorite person in the building. She's a good kid. She shouldn't have seen what she saw. She saw you save her mother, Cecilia said softly. That's what she'll remember. Daniel's voice cracked. I wasn't brave. I just couldn't let her lose her mother. Not like I did. When Cecilia said she knew about Emily, the air between them shifted. You had no right to dig into my past, he said, anger barely leashed. You saved my life. I needed to understand who you are, she whispered. Don't give me sympathy I don't deserve. Why don't you deserve? But even as she said it, doubt flickered. A man doesn't go from celebrated surgeon to invisible janitor without a reason. The investigation took 3 tense days. During that time, Marcus Holloway and James Chen were caught trying to flee the city. Under interrogation, Holloway confessed. Brennan had ordered the attack. They were supposed to intimidate Cecilia, not kill her. Things had gone wrong. The FBI raided Richard Brennan's home and office, uncovering years of fraud, over $17 million stolen through fake vendors and shell accounts. Brennan was arrested at his luxury home in the Hamptons. When Cecilia's team located Daniel Carter, he was right where he'd always been, back at work, pushing his mop through the quiet halls as if nothing had happened. When Detective Morris arrived for his statement, Daniel was polite, calm, and gave only what was necessary, nothing more. Daniel sat across from Detective Morris, calm but unreadable, the fluorescent light buzzing above them. I have first aid training from my time in the military, he said evenly. I heard the child calling for help. I assessed the victim and stabilized her until paramedics arrived. Morris studied him, pen tapping against his notebook. You're a trained trauma surgeon, Captain Carter. Why are you working as a janitor? Daniel's eyes stayed cold. That's personal. The detective sighed. Miss Warren's been asking for you. She wants to thank you. No thanks necessary, Daniel replied, already rising. But Cecilia Warren wasn't someone who took no for an answer. From her hospital bed, she ordered her security team to dig into his past, and what they uncovered shattered her. 8 years ago in Kandahar, Captain Daniel Carter had run a field hospital, saving soldiers and civilians alike. His wife, Emmett? Because I'm alive and she's not. The words hit like a wound reopening. Daniel sank into a chair, voice trembling. I was a surgeon. I was supposed to save people, but I couldn't save her. She wanted to go on that convoy. I told her not to. We argued. I let her go anyway. 6 hours later, they brought her body back. I saved 11 others that day, but not her. Cecilia's eyes softened. So you stopped being a doctor? I stopped pretending I deserved to be one, he said hollowly. I took jobs where no one's life depended on me. 3 years running from who you are, she murmured. Then my daughter begged you to save me and you didn't hesitate. I couldn't let her feel what I felt, he whispered. I couldn't let her lose her mother. You say you don't deserve to be a doctor, Cecilia said gently. But that's exactly who you are. It's who you've always been. I can't go back, Daniel said. Every time I think about it, I see her face. I'm not asking you to go back, Cecilia said, taking his hand. I'm asking you to move forward. Her phone buzzed, her expression tightening. The board meeting is in 2 hours. Brennan's out on bail. Daniel's eyes hardened. He's going to be there? Yes. He tried to have me killed, and now he gets to sit across from me like nothing happened. Are you safe? I have security. The FBI will be there. But if the board doesn't believe me, he walks free. Daniel studied her for a long moment. What do you need? He asked. Cecilia met his gaze. Someone I can trust. Everyone else is compromised except you. He shook his head. I'm just a janitor. No, she said. You're the man who saved my life when you had nothing to gain. The man my daughter trusts completely. The only person I know who'll do what's right, just because it's right. Daniel looked at her hand gripping his, her eyes full of faith he didn't think he deserved. For the first time in years, something inside him stirred. Purpose. Then Daniel nodded once. Tell me what you need. The plan was simple but risky. Cecilia would face the board, expose the evidence, and corner Brennan into revealing the truth. But she needed someone she could trust outside the company, someone who could act if things went wrong. The next morning, Daniel arrived at Warrantech in a dark suit he hadn't worn in 8 years. He looked sharp, composed, unrecognizable. Employees passed him without a second glance. The board meeting was set for 9. From the hallway, Daniel positioned himself where he could see through the glass wall. At 8:45, Cecilia arrived. Even with her arm in a sling and fading bruises, she radiated authority. One by one, the board members filed in, 8 men and women between 45 and 70. At 8:58, Richard Brennan appeared, silver-haired, immaculate, confident, the face of a man you'd trust with your fortune. The same face that had ordered a woman beaten half to death. He approached Cecilia with a polished smile. Cecilia, thank God you're all right. She didn't take his hand. Sit down, Richard. Something flickered in his eyes before he obeyed. At exactly 9, Cecilia began. Thank you all for coming. I need to discuss something critical. She opened her laptop, projecting spreadsheets onto the screen. Over the past 3 months, I discovered serious financial discrepancies, unauthorized transfers, falsified audits, and $17 million moved into offshore accounts. Shock rippled around the table. How could this happen? Asked Elizabeth Morrison, a sharp-eyed board member. It was an inside job, Cecilia replied steadily. Planned for over 2 years. And the man behind it is our CFO, Richard Brennan. Gasps filled the room. Brennan shot to his feet, face burning red. That's a lie! You're confused, Cecilia. You suffered a head injury. I'm perfectly clear, she cut in. I have proof. Bank transfers, emails, approvals with your signature. The FBI has been investigating you for a week. Brennan's composure cracked. This is a coup. You're trying to destroy me! No, Richard. You destroyed yourself, she said coldly. Your assistants confessed you ordered them to attack me. Those were your words. Handle the problem. The room fell silent. Brennan's face drained of color. You can't prove it. I don't have to. The FBI already has. Brennan's control snapped. He lunged toward her, fury blazing. But before he reached her, Daniel stepped through the door. His movements were calm, efficient, dangerous. He positioned himself between them. Step back, Daniel said quietly. Brennan froze. Who the hell are you? Someone who knows exactly what you're capable of, and someone who won't let you hurt her again. Before Brennan could respond, the conference doors swung open. 4 FBI agents entered, led by a tall woman flashing her badge. Richard Brennan, you're under arrest for embezzlement, conspiracy, money laundering, and attempted murder. The room watched in stunned silence as Brennan was cuffed. His mask of charm was gone, replaced by venom. You'll never survive this company without me, he spat. You're weak, nothing like your father. Cecilia met his glare, steady and unflinching. I survived you trying to kill me, Daniel said evenly. That's strength you'll never understand. As Brennan was led away, the room sat frozen. Cecilia's hands trembled as she sank into her chair. Give me a moment, she said softly. Then she looked at Daniel. "Thank you." He shook his head. "You didn't need me." "I needed to know I wasn't alone," she whispered. Elizabeth Morrison cleared her throat. "Miss Warren, who is this man?" Daniel straightened, no longer hiding. "My name is Daniel Carter. I work here as a janitor, and I'm a doctor. I was the one who treated Miss Warren after the attack." The revelation rippled across the table. Someone whispered, "The janitor?" Daniel met their eyes without flinching. After 3 years of being invisible, he no longer cared who saw him. In the weeks after Brennan's arrest, Warren Tech transformed. Elizabeth Morrison became interim CFO. Corrupt board members resigned. Audits swept through every department. Cecilia worked tirelessly to rebuild the company's reputation. Through it all, Daniel remained at his post, quietly doing his job as the world around him changed. People who once ignored him now greeted him with respect. Some stopped to thank him. Every afternoon, Laya visited his office, swinging her legs as she spoke. "Everyone at school knows you're a hero," she said proudly. "I told them you saved my mom." Daniel smiled faintly. "I just did what anyone trained would do." "That's not what the news said," she teased. "But Mom says you don't like attention." She tilted her head. "I think you're good, Mr. Daniel. You're the best person I know." Daniel looked at her for a long moment, the small girl who saw him not as a broken man, but as someone whole. "Your mom talks to me now," she added with a grin. More than before. She asked how I was feeling, if I was scared. She picked at her shoelace. "I did have bad dreams at first, but then I remembered you were there." After that, Cecilia began finding reasons to see Daniel during lunch breaks. She'd appear in the courtyard with 2 sandwiches, asking if he wanted company. He always said yes. They'd sit beneath the trees, talking about everything except work. She confided in him about the pressure of leading a company, the fear of never being enough, and the loneliness of being the only woman in most boardrooms. Daniel shared stories of the kids he taught first aid to, the fleeting moments that reminded him why he'd once become a doctor, and the slow process of forgiving himself. Their conversations were quiet and unhurried, comfortable silences that spoke more than words. One mild October afternoon, Cecilia arrived with coffee and an unexpected idea. "I want to start something, a community health initiative. Free care for people who can't afford it. Trauma response, training, mental health support." Daniel frowned slightly. "That's ambitious and expensive." Cecilia's tone was steady. "I can afford it. My father always said business should serve the community, not just shareholders. After what happened to me, I know how lucky I am. Most people don't have that. Most people suffer alone." Daniel nodded slowly. "It's a good idea." "You should do it." "I want you to run it." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Daniel shook his head. "No, I can't. Why not?" "I let my license lapse 3 years ago. I haven't practiced in nearly a decade." Cecilia leaned forward. "You saved my life with a field kit in 15 minutes. You train at-risk kids in a building with no heat. You carry emergency gear everywhere just in case. You're already doing the work, Daniel. I'm just giving you the means to do it properly." He hesitated. "I can't go back. Every time I think about practicing again, I see Emily's face." "You're not supposed to forget her," Cecilia said softly. "You're supposed to honor her. Emily was a nurse, right? She helped people her whole life." Daniel nodded. "Then the best way to honor her is to keep helping those who need it most. Be the doctor she fell in love with." Her hand brushed his arm. "You don't have to be the same person you were. Just decide whether you'll let guilt define you or let purpose guide you." Daniel stared at the courtyard beyond them, thinking of Emily, of the dreams they once shared, medicine as service, compassion as duty. What would she say now? Would she want him to hide or to fight for those who had nowhere else to turn? "I don't know if I can do this again," he admitted. "What if I fail?" Cecilia smiled faintly. "Then you'll have done everything you could, and that's all anyone can ask. You'll fail sometimes, but you'll also save people. You'll make a difference." Before Daniel could answer, Laya came running, waving a paper. "Mr. Daniel, Mom! Look what I made." She unfolded a crayon drawing of a man in a white coat with a stethoscope standing before a building marked with a red cross. Around him were stick figures of all colors. Below, in a child's handwriting, Dr. Daniel's hospital, where everyone gets help. Daniel stared at the drawing, the shining sun, the open windows, the smiling faces. "This is for your new hospital," Leah said proudly. Daniel looked from the drawing to Cecilia, who watched with quiet understanding. Maybe he couldn't save Emily. Maybe grief would always remain, but perhaps he could honor her memory. "Okay," Daniel said softly. "I'll do it." The next 12 months transformed his life. He enrolled in a medical recertification program, months of study, exams, and sleepless nights. He passed each test on the first try. Meanwhile, Cecilia built a team to design the community health center. She brought in architects who specialized in welcoming, accessible spaces, and consulted social workers on what the community truly needed. Daniel was involved in every decision. He refused sterile white walls or cold waiting rooms. The center would feel nothing like a hospital, more like a place of healing. Warm colors, soft light, a children's corner, comfort instead of fear. He interviewed every staff member personally, seeking not prestige but heart, people who understood what it meant to serve those forgotten by the system. Together they built something that felt less like an institution and more like a sanctuary. Leah became the center's unofficial mascot. She filled rooms with her drawings and declared the waiting area needed toys because kids get scared at hospitals. She also made sure Daniel and her mother spent time together. "Mom, invite Dr. Daniel to dinner." She'd insist weekly. "He's busy, sweetheart. He still has to eat." Everyone eats. And truthfully, Cecilia did smile more around Daniel. Over months of working together, their bond deepened into something neither could quite define. More than friendship, more than respect. They had both endured loss, both rebuilt from ruins. Both learned that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant remembering with purpose. One evening in April, as they reviewed blueprints, Cecilia asked quietly, "Do you think Emily would be proud of what you're building?" Daniel paused, caught off guard. "I think she would have loved this," he said after a moment. The accessible care, the dignity, the focus on mental health. She would have had opinions about the paint colors, and definitely demanded better coffee. Cecilia laughed. "Noted, I'll increase the coffee budget." Daniel smiled. "Yes, she'd be proud, not of me, but of what we're creating. Because it's everything she believed in." Cecilia nodded gently. "Then I'm glad we're doing this. And I'm glad you said yes." Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, neither looked away. The Daniel Carter Community Health Center opened on a bright Saturday in May. Clear skies, warm air. The kind of morning that made hope feel tangible. Families came. People who'd never had consistent care, veterans fighting silent battles, teenagers needing someone to listen. They came because word had spread. There was finally a place where help came without judgment or debt. Daniel stood by the entrance in scrubs, greeting every patient. For the first time in 8 years, they felt like home. By evening, they had treated 112 people. Children laughed in the play area Leah insisted on, while adults filled out forms with trembling hands. Daniel moved through it all with calm purpose, triaging cases, offering comfort, steadying frightened hearts. When a young mother rushed in, certain her baby couldn't breathe, Daniel worked quickly. The baby was fine, just congested, but he stayed until the mother stopped shaking. Watching him, Cecilia realized she was seeing him as he truly was, confident, kind, alive. That night, after the last patient left, Cecilia brought coffee and takeout to his office. "Successful first day?" she asked. "Beyond anything I imagined," Daniel said, smiling. "We helped over 100 people. You helped them. This was your vision." "Our vision," he corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you." They ate quietly, the silence easy. Then Cecilia spoke softly. "I don't know what I would have done without you these past months. Not just for the center, for everything. You've been essential." Daniel met her eyes. "So have you. You gave me a reason to stop hiding. You showed me that moving forward honors the past." Something shifted, unspoken, but understood. Before either could speak, Leah burst in. "Are you guys done being mushy? I want to show Dr. Daniel something." Daniel laughed. "We're not being mushy." "You totally are," she grinned. "Adults think kids don't notice, but we do." She handed him another drawing. Daniel in scrubs, surrounded by smiling figures, and in the corner, a small woman with angel wings in a nurse's uniform. "That's your wife," Laya explained. "Mom told me about her. I thought she should be in the picture too, because she's watching you help people, and she's proud." Daniel blinked hard, emotion rising. This 6-year-old had somehow understood everything. Emily wasn't gone. She lived on in the good he did. "Thank you, Laya," he said softly. "This is the best gift anyone's ever given me. Can Dr. Daniel come to dinner with us? Please, we should celebrate," Laya urged. Cecilia smiled. "Would you like to?" Daniel nodded. "Then it's settled," Laya declared. "Pizza, celebration, and no being sad. It's a happy day." She was right. It was. In the months that followed, the center became the heart of the community. More patients came every week. Services expanded. Daniel hired new staff. And somewhere along the way, home became wherever Cecilia and Laya were. They'd bring dinner to his office or explore the city on weekends, the harbor, museums, quiet parks. They looked like a family. They felt like one. A year after the attack, at the center's first anniversary celebration, Daniel stood on stage. Cecilia and Laya sat in the front row. His voice trembled slightly. "A year ago, I was a man who'd given up on himself." He looked at Cecilia. "Then someone showed me that second chances aren't about deserving. They're about being brave enough to accept them." The room hushed as Daniel stepped down and knelt, not in front of Cecilia, but in front of Laya. He pulled out a small box with a silver ring. "Laya Warren, may I have your permission to ask your mother a very important question?" Laya gasped. "Yes." "Yes, ask her." Daniel rose and turned to Cecilia, opening a second box with a diamond ring. "Cecilia Warren," he began, voice breaking, "you saved me long before I saved you. You saw me when I was invisible. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. You and your daughter gave me a family when I thought I'd lost everything. I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I promise I'll show up, love you both, and never stop trying. Will you marry me? Will you let me be part of this family?" "Yes," Cecilia whispered, then louder, "Yes." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger. She threw her arms around him, and Laya launched herself into the hug, wrapping them both. The room erupted in applause, but the three of them barely heard. They were too busy holding on, too busy beginning their next chapter together.